Chivalry of a Failed Knight did not get a second season, but did you know the anime only covered 3 of the 20-ish books? So each of my videos will summarize a single volume, alongside the use of clip art style animations. Now some of the characters didn't appear in the anime, so for them I'll use a similar character from a different show to represent them. Many years prior, there was a group of homeless kids living in a shed outside of a church. A redhead named Yuri gives the 2 younger boys alcohol as a makeshift test to see if they're ready to become adults. A nun steps outside scolding Yuri for her actions, and you see a familiar face in the background. You see, Alice and Yuri vowed to protect these kids, which is why she's currently working for the Mafia. Presently, Hagan Academy is empty due to it being summer break, though our main group is at a rival school, training for the upcoming 7 Stars Sword Art Festival. Stella's flames surround her foe, however the lightning-infused sword keeps them at bay. Toka is here just as a coach and prepares her ultimate attack, forcing Stella to back away, conjuring a flaming dragon. Toka slays it with Raikiri. Stella lunges forward, but Toka uses the momentum from her quick draw to spin completely around, catching Stella by surprise. Due to the phantom form blade, Stella is left unharmed, simply stating that she didn't know that was possible. Toka declares this to be her first time attempting it, as she advises Stella to be more careful in her upcoming battles. Kagami and Alice were watching this amazing match, alongside 2 other journalists. Yagakoro asks why Alice isn't training, and she claims to just be uninterested. Alice then flirts with Komiyama, causing him to back away, unsure how to respond. Next, they discuss Ikki's triumph over Raikiri, and they observe as he effortlessly wins the 2 versus 1 against a duo of Hagan's representatives. Kagami then explains that Ikki already beat every coach at this facility, so they were forced to call in someone even stronger to train him. They'd normally assume this to be Saikyo or Director Kurono, however they're both out of town. Yagakoro states that Hagan is bringing a strong team this year, and everyone agrees that there is an abnormal amount of unknown first years attending this upcoming 7 Stars. On top of this, the rank A blazer Oma Kuragane will be in attendance, which is in fact Ikki's older brother. A professional blazer nicknamed the God of War then enters the facility. If you enjoy this video and want me to make more, then be sure to like and subscribe. Later that evening, you find Ikki taking a jog, accompanied by Stella, who's very frustrated after losing to Raikiri. Stella then brings up Oma Kuragane, curious as to why this rank A blazer isn't more famous. Ikki explains that his brother discarded their family and went into hiding because according to him, there was no worthy opponents. This means that Oma's resurfacing is due to Stella joining Hagan Academy, and after hearing all of this, Stella vows to surpass Toka by the end of this week. Now, while walking through town holding hands, our couple garners quite a bit of attention. Ikki's acting much bolder with their relationship, so Stella rewards him by pulling his arm even closer to her body. Though a moment later, he's distracted by a passerby, who he thinks is hiding a knife. Ikki bolts into action just as the man begins to pull out the weapon, though just before he can, a girl grabs hold of his arm. She seems to know this man's past, but she's knocked down as the man attacks her. Ikki suddenly realizes this would-be girl is actually a boy, who's also a 7-star rep from a different school. With a scream for help, Ikki kicks a lipstick container, disarming the man, followed by a single punch knocking him out. Stella calls the police as the boy introduces himself as Amane Shinomiya, and a very energetic Ikki fanboy. Amane then treats them to a meal where you learn that he's apparently really weak, but was picked to be a 7-star rep due to his rare ability. Amane genuinely thanks Ikki for the save, and even asks for an autograph. He then begins quoting Ikki's most embarrassing moments as Stella struggles to hold back the laughter. A moment later, Amane stands up to leave, so Ikki goes to thank him, but is overwhelmed by a sense of unease. To try and alleviate this issue, he calls Kagami asking about Amane. The only information she has is that his ability somehow manipulates cause and effect, though now she's become interested. Stella tells him he's just overthinking this, but Ikki is still unsure. Jumping back in time, you see Alice walking home with Yuri. They discuss that the Olympics is coming to town, so the government is doing whatever it can to chase away any and all street kids. You then watch as an old man orders a subordinate to use trash to clean up other trash. Back to the present, you find Kagami researching Amane. She discovers that all 6 of his wins were by default, and she also notices that each school is sending one unknown student as a 7-star representative. After investigating their past, she concludes that there must be an 8th school hiding within the others, and at that moment she's run through by Alice's phantom form dagger. An annoyed Alice then answers the phone to Hiraga, asking why she took so long to pick up. She explains that Kagami uncovered Akatsuki Academy, and asks if she needs to be killed. Hiraga doesn't think that's necessary, and hands the phone to a one-armed man named Master Wallenstein. He asks if Alice is prepared. She says yes, followed by him declaring Alice, aka the Black Assassin, to be his very best pupil. So after dealing with Kagami, Alice returns home to find Shizuku reading a book. She comments about Alice being out awfully late, and Alice invites her to have a shot. Shizuku agrees since today is special, and downs this disgusting drink. Alice talks about how she began drinking whiskey as a child, explaining that now it tastes like memories. She then asks why today is special, so Shizuku explains that today is the very first time Alice has asked her for anything. Alice then thinks back to the time she returned home to find the door off its hinges and a pool of blood on the ground. Sprinting after the trail, Alice finds Yuri bleeding out in the street as numerous citizens walk by, ignoring the dirty street kids. Yuri asks Alice to go save the others, just as her last breath slips away. Alice wastes no time tracking them down, demanding to know why the Mafia attacked her family. They explain the mayor of the city paid them to take out the trash, and that in this world, it's simply survival of the fittest. You know, they're right. And a moment later, Alice is drenched in their blood. With her family saved, she reaches out to them, but now they're completely terrified. With nowhere to go, Alice walks through the street as a stranger approaches her. He claims to be an assassin, explaining that Alice stole his kill. He then delivers Alice the head of the mayor, which she repeatedly stomps into the ground. He invites her to join the terrorist group known as Rebellion, explaining that strength is all that matters in this world. Alice threatens to decline, and this man threatens to take her by force. Alice demands $100 million. He threatens to decline, and is met by a stare of pure bloodlust. Master Wallenstein is not intimidated in the slightest, but he agrees to the $100 million and welcomes Alice to her new home. Our group is on a bus returning to Hagun, where Stella is eating away her frustration of tying Toka 3 to 3. The twins warn her she'll get fat, but she explains it all just goes to her chest. In a fit of rage, the twins wrestle Stella to the ground, scouring every inch of her body for hidden fat rolls. Shizuku takes this opportunity to offer her brother a snack, while holding it between her lips. Stella effortlessly breaks away, asking what the heck Shizuku's doing.
Harassing him.
The bus lurches to a halt, and everyone gazes at the distant billows of smoke rising from Hagun Academy. Moments later, they arrive and exit the bus to be greeted by a jester. Toka asks if they caused this, prompting the group to drop to the ground, declaring themselves to be Akatsuki Academy. Iki asks Oma what's going on, but he exclaims,
"I'm not your family."
Hiraga explains they're here to destroy Hagun Academy as a way to prove their power and earn an official spot at the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. Toka doesn't think criminals would be allowed to participate, but Hiraga thinks the Mage Knight Federation would be forced to prove who's stronger. Each side then readies their devices. Back at the training facility, you see the man known as the God of War. He's thinking back on his 3 matches with Iki, where neither of them made a move, because neither of them gave an opening. He then notices something strange, and opens a locked room to find Kagami hogtied. Literally seconds earlier, Alice released her daggers, aiming at all of their shadows, pinning all of the Akatsuki members in place. You see, back on the bus, Alice had restrained Iki's group and revealed the existence of her terrorist group known as Rebellion, and of course, Akatsuki Academy. Everyone was very reluctant to cooperate with her, but Shizuku's gaze convinced Iki to trust in Alice. Now unable to move, Akatsuki is swiftly cut down, though Iki struggles to believe he beat Oma this easily. Then upon remembering the incident with Amane, Iki turns around to watch Alice get impaled. She passes out due to the phantom form blades as Shizuku runs toward her friend, though she's blasted backwards as Akatsuki steps out from behind an illusion. Upon looking down again, they realize they'd attacked wooden dolls, and Sarah Bloodlily asked if they're impressed with her artwork. Hiraga admits that Amane's ability predicted Alice's betrayal, just before running away with their unconscious friend. Iki chases, but Oma gets in the way, so Stella steps up confronting him. She states that Shizuku is following Hiraga, and that it's probably a trap, so Iki dashes off to help his sister. Stella challenges Oma and sends him flying before unleashing her trump card. Oma unleashes his full power as well, creating monstrous shockwaves as these giant elemental blades collide. Everyone is forced to just watch as Stella's sword begins to wane, as she struggles to comprehend this overwhelming power. Her salamandra snaps, allowing the tornado to descend upon her. Toka manages to whisk her out of harm's way, then immediately knocks her out, throwing her body to the twins. She orders all of the 7-star reps to flee, but Kanata refuses to leave Toka's side. The full power of Akatsuki then descends upon Hagun's student council. Now, Shizuku is able to track down Alice using her magic, however she's already run out of breath. To fix this problem, she relieves somebody of their motorcycle, but realizes her legs are too short to ride it. Iki arrives, prompting Shizuku to complain about this bike's major design flaw. He proclaims her to be heading straight into a trap that Alice wouldn't want her getting involved with. Shizuku is well aware, but simply doesn't care because her best friend is in danger. Iki nods in approval before riding tandem with Shizuku. 10 minutes have passed since this battle began, and Toka is the last person standing. Oma refuses to fight back unless she can hurt him, so she repeatedly releases Raikiri, but just can't pierce his magical defense. So since he's not moving, she takes the time creating a lightning-fueled railgun, inserting herself as the projectile. Her blade bolts towards Oma, blood explodes from her arm, and she just barely nicks his chest. The Gale Sword Emperor graciously acknowledges her feat by counterattacking with Kusanagi. With the student council incapacitated, Akatsuki begins to go after Stella and the twins, purposely allowing Iki and Shizuku to reach their headquarters. Over in Osaka, Saikyo and Kurono receive word of the attack, but all flights have been delayed. Using their magic, they begin running back to Hagun, but stop in their tracks due to an overwhelmingly powerful aura. Iki feels this aura as well, and brings the bike to a screeching halt. They look up to see a dual-wielding Valkyrie, as Iki orders Shizuku to go on without him. You find out this woman is Edelweiss, the Twin Wings, the strongest sword fighter in the world. She's also a criminal so powerful that governments don't even attempt to apprehend her. Alice wakes up with Master Wallenstein's boot deep in her gut, explaining that he was genuinely hoping for Amane's prediction to be wrong. He exclaims that he taught Alice to forsake love, causing her to think back on the last time she returned home. It was the time that Alice handed over the large sum of money, explaining that she's become an assassin. Though instead of being happy, the nun somberly handed Alice a bottle of liquor, asking her to always remember her and Yuri's promise to protect the weak. Alice breaks free attacking, but is immediately knocked back to the ground, just as a bowl of ice crashes through the ceiling. Alice screams, "You were supposed to leave me!" But Shizuku never agreed to that. Alice's organs rupture, and the pain takes away her ability to speak, and to tell Shizuku that water is useless against Wallenstein. She drops a massive ice hammer directly on top of him, but somehow it seems to miss. She quickly freezes the floor and launches a volley of razor-sharp icicles, yet Wallenstein walks toward her, completely unaffected. Shizuku erects a massive ice pillar in defense, just as Alice forces out a scream. "Dodge!" Iki opens the battle with his trump card, even turning off his breathing to help improve his reactions. Using his fastest technique, he's just barely able to parry her invisible perfect attacks. Iki creates some distance and throws out an afterimage, which Edelweiss falls for. Iki takes this opportunity to attack, but nearly loses his head in the process. He then charges forward with his most powerful attack, but she skillfully stops the charge using the tip of her blade. She successfully slashes his forehead, causing blood to cover her eyes, though he's still able to block using his perfect vision. With all of his options exhausted, Iki locks blades and twists his muscles in such a way to send a shockwave through his foe. Though blood burst from his own body, as Edelweiss did the same thing, just much stronger. Her next blow shatters Iki's sword as his consciousness begins to slip away. He wills his feet underneath him, gripping a shard of his former device. She actually doesn't wish to kill him and even wants to go save Shizuku from Wallenstein, but Iki refuses to let her through, because this is the first time his sister has ever needed him. The world's strongest sword fighter then apologizes and steels herself to respectfully finish off the warrior standing in front of her. Shizuku emerges from the fog, freezing the wound where her arm used to be. She decides the best course of action is to grab Alice and flee, but she slips and falls on her own ice. She finally realizes that Wallenstein holds the power to control friction, and that without friction, even the sharpest bullet will simply bounce off. Alice then screams as Shizuku's body is cleaved into two separate pieces. Edelweiss is standing there shocked that Iki chose to attack with the last of his strength, which actually forced her to hold back in order to defend herself. Director Kurino then arrives, and Edelweiss straight up admits that she meant to kill Iki with that final attack. She thinks about how Amane will be Iki's toughest opponent, before asking Kurino to pass on the following message.
I hope you're stronger next time.
After she leaves, Kurino rushes to heal Iki and notices a few drops of blood right where Edelweiss was standing. She then senses some very strange magic happening down below. Shizuku looks up at Alice, but for some reason can't make out the words. She then remembers what happened, considers how sad her friends would be.
Screw it, might as well try.
Changing perspectives, Alice's entire world seems to be fading away, even to the point that Shizuku's corpse begins to feel weightless. She looks down, but sees nothing but a pile of clothes. Wallenstein is confused as Shizuku appears across the room, completely bare. He realizes that she vaporized her own flesh, and declares that one mistake reconstructing herself could be catastrophic. Shizuku calls herself a genius, and giggles as she's now completely immune to his attacks. Wallenstein then begins gasping for air as his lungs begin filling with water. Shizuku states that she would never use this technique on another student, all the while Wallenstein begs for mercy. Icicles then burst out from within his body, and Shizuku relieves this corpse of its cloak. She uses up the last of her magic, successfully piecing herself back together, and then scolds her best friend for attempting to run away. Elsewhere, Miss Saikyo stands before Akatsuki, defending Stella and the twins. She's winning a battle with Oma, and you realize they seem to know each other somehow. Her gravity magic renders the rest of Akatsuki immobile, just before Hiraga arrives, ordering them to retreat. After all is said and done, Akatsuki Academy is banned from competing in the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. That is until the Prime Minister of Japan openly admits to backing this new school. This causes the International Mage Knight Federation to give the order for the official Japanese branches to crush Akatsuki at the tournament in order to prove that they are stronger. Kurino apologizes to Iki and Shizuku before explaining that the Prime Minister, who used to be her director, wants to train Japanese blazers without the Mage Knight Federation being involved. Shizuku exclaims they're terrorists, but sadly they have no evidence. Kurino then gives Iki the opportunity to back out of the 7 stars, but obviously he refuses. They ask about Stella to find out she's still planning to attend, but will be gone for the next week. Alice, the twins, and Kaneda all backed out for different reasons, but Alice volunteered to give her spot to Shizuku. She immediately accepts, as Kurino points out that Shizuku was the only person to win against Akatsuki. Iki then learns that his first opponent is slated to be the previous year's winner, King Yudai Moribashi. Around the same time, Stella was asking Miss Saikyo to personally train her. The Demon Princess threatens to decline, prompting Stella to ready her weapon anyway. Miss Saikyo then admits that she has nothing to teach Stella, but she's more than willing to non-stop kick the shit out of her for the next 7 days. Stella eagerly accepts this week of hell, seeking to find any way she can to conquer a more powerful foe. These character models were created by my wife, so be sure to thank her down below. And allow me to give a big shout out to my newest patron, MX Weeb.